Cost of Victory, Book 1 of the Unseen Scar series by C.R. Saxon. Chapter 29. Thalia watched her nephew grimace at the small container John offered. What's Ferdinand doing? Their conversation didn't make it past the door's window, but John was rather animated, and Ferdinand had turned away while Oya stood smirking at them both. Why are they bothering my nephew when he should be resting? But did she have a right to be irritated? Ferdinand spent more time with John than anyone else. Looking into his travel plans from the last 5 years was eye-opening. Only once did he go to Chuzo, but Oishi and Azute, just about every time. Kadiko was also frequented. He's well-traveled, but traveling alone isn't safe. No wonder he's so scarred. When did all this happen? I can only say for the newest ones. Samuel pointed to the fresh pink scars. The others, he never received medical attention for them. He couldn't possibly care for those on his own. She noticed he didn't say anything about the newer scars. They would have healed cleaner if a trained healer cared for them. Samuel pointed to a ragged one on his side. That one needed stitches but didn't get them. A competent healer could have prevented most of those scars, at least partially. Partially? He's been malnourished most of his life. Thalia nodded and returned to her earlier question. When did those new ones happen? Last break. That happened at your home? No, he arrived injured. The healer guided her attention to Ferdinand's weakened body. I healed him as best I could, but... Why didn't you tell me? You aren't his parent. That comment annoyed her greatly. What happened? He wouldn't say. Excuse me? He's a child. You make him say. We tried. Samuel's jaw tightened. Never mind. Shouldn't he be resting? Samuel checked the time. No, it's almost dinner. Whether he agrees or not, he needs to eat. For that little bit of healing, I leached a number of nutrients from his bones and organs. I'll call for something to be brought. Samuel scratched the back of his head. I think John prefers cooking for him. Really? Yeah, it irritates him, though. After a forced chuckle, Samuel turned to his old friend. Don't tell him about the girl. Why would it matter? They determined she died before Ferdinand could reach her. This kind of news, he won't be able to handle it. Was he close to her? No, if they met, it was only this week. Don't mention this to John or Oya either. Leave that to us. The song Ferdinand screamed out during the show shrieked loudly in Zhao's ear. It played on repeat with the other sorrowfully angry songs he'd collected, but today it wasn't cathartic. Zhao? Ozar pushed open the bedroom door. Think you'd be up for some food? If I don't eat, it'll make everyone worry. If they worry, I'll never get home to help Mom. Still, he felt dead inside. What next? Will the ocean swallow up his country and Mother too? Yeah, I'd love to eat. Anything in particular? Surprise me. Nothing spicy, but other than that. No problem. Silently the man walked away. The Artemises agreed to care for Rura, not him. There was no reason. Tears stung his eyes, but he beat them away. No, not now. Later. When they've left. Later. When no one can see me. Focus on the good. Yu and Elby survived. They're fine, full recovery. The two of my charges could have died. Neither did he save them. Ferdinand did. Ferdinand. He knew what kind of person Ferdinand was, even if the boy did everything to hide it, and true to form, the skeleton could have died rescuing them. Looking down at his sister's picture, Zhao's face contorted, but he held back the flood. Why, of all people, she was so tiny, so innocent, and now this was all he had left of her. No one rescued Rura. He watched the Energists remove the debris. There'd been so much on top of her, his own calculations proved Ferdinand wouldn't have seen. According to Bayer, the explosion killed his sister instantly. It wouldn't have mattered if... Yet, Zhao was angry. Ferdinand always managed the impossible. Why didn't he turn the tables on this? Why did he leave Rura behind? Somehow the sickly boy broke into a burning building, found Elby and Yu and got out. In those moments, Ferdinand did the impossible. So why not save his sister? It's not his fault. There was nothing he could have done. It's a miracle he saved Elby and Yu. Logically, he knew this, but his heart still cried out. Zhao was livid at the skeleton for not getting her. And because he knew he had no right to be, he told himself it wasn't Ferdinand's fault. His heart didn't believe his mind, but he'd keep repeating it until it did. Releasing a shaky breath, he wiped away more tears. How did he know they were in there? The alarm sounded and Zhao arrived in time to see Ferdinand crash through the window carrying a wrapped bundle. It was amazing. Ferdinand's tiny. Where did he find the strength? Massive burns bubbled the skeleton's skin. According to Ozar, Samuel had difficulty healing it. This should worry him. But Zhao's angry heart felt Ferdinand deserved it. It was the child's own fault for not taking care of himself. Blue-black eyes turned to Rura's picture again. Please keep Mom safe. I can't lose her too. Calling Mom, telling her, he couldn't handle it. So Ozar had. Even from his room he heard his mother crying. He couldn't stand seeing girls cry, least of all those he loved. It killed him. Being powerless to ease her heart. That's what awaits me at home. How many are crying? Inconsolable. Moaning, Ferdinand pushed himself to his feet, but John pushed him back. He was weak. Everything ached, the inside of his head most of all. Was it possible to go deaf from a voice only he could hear? I'm cold. John nodded, pity coating every inch of him, until the thinker opened Ferdinand's closet. He couldn't see his ally's face, but those tense shoulders said it all. One shirt after another was pulled out and discarded. When did you last update your wardrobe? Slothful even in something so simple. Purpling on the spot, Ferdinand looked down and away. Why is he so picky about clothing? These will never fit over your shoulders. How? John sighed and rolled his eyes. I'll be back. You don't. The door closed, stopping Ferdinand's argument before it started. Hyena giggles came out of nowhere, magnifying his shame. Still, his heart leapt, excited to see her. Why? Is this what people feel when they see their friends? Impertinent, thinking she'd ever consider you a friend. That voice was correct. Besides, what right did he have making anyone's life more difficult, especially after she'd been so nice to him? I need to put her first. I need to stop being selfish. He sure loves clothes, Oya grinned. Thank you. Huh? Thank you? Oya sat next to him, tugging at the chain she always wore. Jumping into a burning building. You astound and amaze me. She believes that? Pitiful girl. Biting the inside of his cheeks, kept his lip from quivering. Ferdinand opened his mouth to correct her, only to have her delicate hand block his words. You are completely amazing. I'm lucky having a friend like you bless my life. Something sweet and light and warm filled his very core, then bitterness replaced it, turning his stomach. No, I'm not. I'm awful. You're the worst. Ferdinand was never so grateful to see John in all his life, though he rolled his eyes at the giant pile of neatly folded clothing that Dinta carried. These will be a little short in the sleeves, but you can get them on, John announced unfazed when Oya grabbed the top shirt. It was huge on him. Guess it's better than being too small. Ferdinand rubbed his throbbing head, focused on Oya dancing around the room. She's so silly. Pathetic. A knife twisted every time that voice spoke, bringing back desires he thought he'd banished. Where are the blueprints for that second skin machine? John replaced the shirts from the closet with the ones he'd brought, eyeing the slacks while he was at it. Why? Exasperation saturated that word. Isn't that what you designed it for? John sounded perturbed. To protect extremely damaged skin, like those of burn victims. I'm not a victim. Ferdinand turned to the window. I chose to enter that building. It took a while for John to find any words. You chose to save 2 children, so you don't deserve the medical care your own device would provide? I wanted to thank you personally, son. South Chuzo's general bowed to the skeleton boy. When he stood up, his face was stern. Make sure you learn some respect before next time. Not all leaders are as forgiving as I am. Yes, sir. Blushing, Ferdinand bowed. Thanking you for murdering millions? He's quite the military leader. Thank you for allowing me my anonymity. I don't feel right about it. I'm a child. I don't want that kind of attention or pressure. Weren't you taking responsibility, or was that posturing to get what you wanted? I understand. The general cleared his throat. I'm glad I know who to thank. You did a wonderful job. When you graduate, contact me. You'll always have a lab here. That's most generous, sir. Ferdinand bowed again. How come no one understood how little he deserved? I'm tired. The healing Samuel forced upon him rendered his second skin useless. He would have been better off if the healer left him alone. His powder in that skin was all he would have needed, if he hadn't been partially healed. Samuel opened the door. John, isn't it time to start dinner? Thanks for reminding me. He hurried out, Oya waving him off. Your aunt wants to talk to you. Are you up for it? Samuel asked. She's my general. She's sick of you, too. How do I keep what's in my mind from her? Between that voice and Samuel healing him, it was all he could do not to be dizzy or sick. Always a failure. His heart tore and twisted. That voice wasn't as loquacious, but it sounded harder, and its truths felt more brutal. It no longer simply delighted in tormenting him. It hated him, as much as he hated himself. There was no easy way to do this. Zhao stilled himself and triggered the chime. According to LB's yearmates, the young tinkerer was the only one inside. No answer came. This was a pain he'd become all too familiar with these past few months. Not about to back down, he knocked. LB, can I talk to you? Dead silence. The world held its breath. What response would LB give? Time stood still until a soft shuffling made its way toward the door. There was a hesitation. The knob turned. Haggard, bloodshot eyes looked up at him, but LB's face was resolute. Please come in. Stepping back, LB showed the lead to the couch. Everyone's with their families. We won't be bothered for a while. Sitting, Zhao closed his eyes. Elby and Yu were playing with Rura. She wanted to see the labs. Without pause, the sweet little boy jumped up and volunteered. If only I insisted they help with lunch. All I had to do was say I'd show her. I should have told them to play on the beach. Anything but yes. Elby took her there, but he was the last person to blame. It was Zhao's fault. He blamed himself, and his heart blamed Ferdinand. He could have prevented this, and Ferdinand should have been a superhero when he failed to be a diligent big brother. Unable to take the silence anymore, Elby dropped to his knees, crying, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. I'm sorry." Sliding to the floor, Zhao closed his eyes against his bleeding heart. He hugged the small boy, squeezing tighter when Elby winced. "Thank you, Elby. Thank you for playing with my sister. Thank you for making her happy. Thank you for being kind. You really are Ferdinand's apprentice." But It's not your fault. It was horrible timing. The tear-streaked face looked up. What? There were improperly stored chemicals. You were being a good boy and a wonderful friend. I'd forgive you, but there's nothing to forgive. Squeezing the child tighter, Zhao continued on. I can't let him become like Ferdinand. As lead, the health and well-being of his charges were top priority. I can't express how relieved I am that you and Yu are safe. But hiccups took over. I was terrified when I saw Ferdinand jump out the window with you and Yu. Those words shook Zhao's voice, but he forced himself on. I was so scared. I thought the world would end. But you're okay. Everything's okay. No, but... I'm right here. I want you to be happy. I need you to know you did nothing wrong. And I'll drop everything whenever either of you need anything. Okay? Okay. Squeezing Zhao back, Elby grit his teeth. I'm sorry you lost your sister. Me too. Zhao released the boy and looked out the window. Guess I'm alone now. Tears filled mismatched eyes. But all of us, we're right here, just like you are. We're here too. But I'll be leaving soon. I never thought a king could be alone. Elby frowned and looked away. Sorry, anew. Reaching up, Zhao mussed Elby's hair and gave the boy a smile. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. You're my island family and I love you very much. Elby sat stunned by those last few words. Do you think we can go back to how we were before? I really liked how we all were then. I did too. Everything was happier, Elby answered. Somehow, there was a spark of joy in both their faces. Yes, Lady General? Annoying, useless child. You haven't been happy during my time here. I'm sorry, General. I'm not particularly comfortable right now. Ferdinand kept his eyes on the ground, sitting instead of kneeling. She waited, but he didn't say more. Why won't you call me Aunt? Please answer me honestly. You're my general. Isn't that more important? Tenalia sighed before looking dazed a moment. Are you happy at home? Why wouldn't I be? Ferdinand twisted his foot in the rug. How did you get those scars? I'm clumsy. Guilt flooded over the skeleton as his improper desires grew. Sitting here, answering his aunt less than honestly, her concern told him how much he'd failed. I've failed my prince, my duchess, my general, and my country. I've lied, I've killed, I've put everyone in danger. Why is she here? Why is she wasting her time on trash like me? Why indeed? I asked you to be honest. I am clumsy. Years of training and practice made this a truth everyone accepted. But the two aren't related. Setting his jaw, Ferdinand didn't waver. Disappointment. White-hot flames consumed Ferdinand's hands. It was only then he realized he'd covered his ears. Why won't you eat? You're so malnourished Samuel couldn't heal you properly. The general brought those bony hands down to rest on Ferdinand's lap. Once the general released his hands, truth spilled off his tongue. I don't feel well when I eat. Pathetic. After all these years, the sight, taste, and smell of food made him ill. The voice laughed, making him cringe and tightening his chest. But he kept his stone mask in place, hiding his crystal blue eyes from her. What did I do with my earpiece? Doesn't being hungry make you feel less well? No. That dazed look flashed across her face again. Does it have to do with your mother? Ferdinand froze. Stupid. What am I doing? It does, doesn't it? He straightened but kept his eyes down. She doesn't forbid me to eat. Then what does she do? Eyes closed, Ferdinand thought. Lying to his general was wrong, but neither could he answer her truthfully, and she expected a real answer. She's fulfilling her duty to her country and all her children to the best of her abilities. I can't fix something if I don't know it's broken. There's nothing to fix, Lady General. Failure. I really am the stranger. Sorrow filled her admission. I apologize for offending you. Ferdinand bowed forward until his skin screamed. I'm the one who should apologize. She knelt down beside him and took his hand, encasing it in white-hot fire once more. How do I become your aunt? A general's important for a country, but an aunt's important for a family. I want to be your family first. But Selfish. It's important. I don't know what to say. Ferdinand turned far enough away she couldn't see his face. But if you tell me what you want, I'll fulfill it. I'd like to get to know you. Her command was overwhelming. Was there anything about him important enough to tell? What would you like to know? Nothing. You're insignificant. Tell me about your inventions. Okay. She picked something benign. Why? He waited for her to sit before starting. I don't know how interesting you'll find them.